All right, so next is talking about that unification of taxes. This has gotten a lot of employers, entrepreneurs excited because the issue of multiple taxation, has been on the front burner for a while. So President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been advised to declare a state of emergency in revenue generation by merging the Federal Inland Service, Revenue Service, the FIRS, the Nigerian Customs Service, and the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, that's NIMASA, into the Nigerian Revenue Service. This would mean that paying taxes will have to be, to one source and one platform, and hopefully that should be able to deal with the challenge of multiple taxation. But we don't know if the president will take this advice, but let's see some of the implications from the eye of an expert. Talking about Mr. Michael Ango, is a partner tax advisory and regulatory services at Anderson. Mr. Ango, thank you for your time this morning. So what are some of the implications of merging this revenue collecting agencies? What are some of the, first implications of it?
Good morning, John. I think before we talk about implications, it's important that we first understand that this whole issue is basically an advisory. So after the elections, the president set up a policy advisory committee to look at different facets of the economy, infrastructure, national economy, oil and gas. So this whole talk about the merger of FIRS, NIMASA, and the Nigerian Customs Service is basically an advisory report that was issued by the Policy Advisory Committee. So it's not a policy of government, as it were. It may, of course, if adopted by the president or the administration, become a policy. But just to get that clear so that we are clear about what we're discussing. Now, in terms of the actual advice itself to merge the three entities, I think we can look at it from two perspectives. We can look at it from a theoretical and from a practical point of view. In theory, what we'll usually say on paper, it is, a good idea, as it were, because again, do not forget, we've had the Orosanyo report now for over a decade that has talked about proliferation of agencies in Nigeria, and they need to merge them to improve efficiency, reduce bureaucracy, cut costs, and all of that. So at a theoretical level, it looks like a good idea to say, look, if you have agencies of government which are doing similar things, you have the Nigerian Customs Service, which collects custom duties, excise. You have the FIRS, which collects taxes, income taxes, VAT, and the rest. NIMASA is a bit, I would say it's an outlier because it's not really a revenue-generating agency per se. But if you look at the three of them, you may then say, okay, fine. There will be a need to kind of merge them to ensure that, in terms of revenue collection, efficiency, coordination, and synergy, we're able to achieve that. From a practical point of view, the recommendation has a lot of, there's a lot of work, or it needs to be properly articulated, it needs to be better understood. What do we really hope to achieve? Because if you look at these three agencies, let us take the smallest of them, which is NIMASA. NIMASA is essentially set up or was set up to provide maritime safety and security, shipping registration, merchant shipping and all of that. So its major acts that it administers are the NIMASA Act, the Merchant Shipping Act, and the Cabotage Act. So if you look at its functions, it was not essentially a revenue-generating agency. It does collect revenue from its activities or from the services that it provides, but it's not a core revenue-generating agency. The FIRS and the customs are closer in that regard because the FIRS is a purely revenue-generating agency. It collects, administers accounts, enforces, and all of that. Taxes accruable to the federation and to the federal government. Customs, on the other hand, has dual functions. It is a revenue agency to the extent that it collects customs duties, excise. But it also has other ancillary functions, which are as important as its revenue-generating functions. So you know that customs is in charge of border control, anti-smuggling, even forex utilization. When you pass through the airport, they give you the forex form to fill. So if you look at them as individual agencies, they have very broad functions and they are very dispersed. The practical challenge is this. You have three well-defined agencies already existing for a number of years. How do you then begin to work towards merging them? You're going to have legal issues, you're going to have administrative issues, you're going to have technical issues. There are even international dimensions, as it were, because the NIMASA, for example, has international treaties which it has signed up for. It is a member of the International Maritime Organization and the ILO. Customs, on the other hand, is a member of the World Customs Organization and the World Trade Organization. FRS also has a number of, obligations, international obligations with OECD, United Nations, and all of that. So I'm not saying that it's not something that can happen, but there needs to be more clarity. It needs to be defined. It needs to be properly articulated. And then, of course, you need to then do the hard work in terms of convincing the government itself that this is a good idea and that it should implement.
So, Mr. Ango, what then would you suggest? Because obviously this is just to make life easier for taxpayers, especially owners of businesses who have to pay to this and pay. What do you suggest, or how do you suggest that it can be more coordinated and easier, giving ease to the taxpayers?
Well, I'm not sure that the average Nigerian taxpayer, if you were to ask him to set out the agencies that he interacts with on a daily basis, I'm not sure he would name the NIMASA or the customs. Customs, yes, for importers and for excise traders, but I'm not sure that if multiple taxation is really the key issue here, then, merging these three agencies will be the silver bullet for resolving the issue of multiple taxation. But there's a point that I think I agree with, to the extent that we need to improve synergy and coordination. And I think one of the things that we've seen recently is in announcing the, advisors that the president announced, he did mention, or they did appoint a special advisor on revenue. So possibly such a role or such a person could be responsible for coordinating the revenue generating activities of government at the federal level. And then you can drive things like coordination, like synergy, to ensure that, all of these agencies work together. They enhance they ease the payment of taxes, they reduce the bureaucracy and then the number of taxes that persons have to pay. But, these are also legal issues. If you are talking about reducing or streamlining taxes, then you have to look at what are the taxes that people pay, which of these taxes can be merged, or which of them can be dropped. And I think one of the major issues really is that at the federal level of government, I don't think we have too many taxes, as it were. But the issue is at the subnational level. When you begin to go to the states, that is where people then say, look, I'm paying 24 taxes, I'm paying 25 taxes. If you stop at the federal level of government, you will find out you're paying your income tax, you're paying VAT, maybe stamp duty, capital gains tax. The taxes are well defined. At the level of customs, you're paying excise. So I'm saying that if you are really looking for efficiency, I think you have to look more at the subnational level of government and see how the federal government can then work with the states to reduce the incidence of multiple taxation. But there are always, alternatives, or there are points. So one thing, for example, that you could do, and we have learning points from other countries where it has happened. Let me use the UK, for example, where we famously go to say, there's the Majesty's Revenue and Customs. When the merger took place in 2005, there was what I'll call just a lump, merger. But subsequently, they then took out the UK Border Authority out of the customs and left Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs with pure revenue generating functions. So excise, customs duties, and then all of the other taxes were left in Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs. So one thing we could do in Nigeria, for example, is to say, fine, we may then look at customs and say, remove excise from customs and domicile that within FIRS. Or you could say even remove customs duties and excise and put that in the revenue service. And then you can leave customs as a purely law enforcement agency with border control, anti-smuggling, and all of that. But there's a lot of work to be done. It's not something that can happen, at the switch of a button or, at the snap of a thumb.
All right, Mr. Ango, obviously any good thing will require a lot of work. Thank you for your suggestion and your views on this advice. Obviously, it's an advice, and we noted that. Mr. Michael Ango, Partner, Tax Advisory and Regulatory Services with Anderson, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
You too.